ceding sovereignty.
Follow
we are protesting the World Food Prize.
That been suggested to us from this preacher from the Church of the Living Earth. I believe that regenerative farming will take place inside the people's house. And Monsanto and Bayer and Syngenta and the Chinese companies and BASF and who have I left out? Dow and DuPont. Pioneer. They're just going to turn to regeneration to save themselves. That's right. Amen. That's right. That's right. It's going to happen. It is happening. The power is the earth. This is just this Trump. They just work on other issues. These polymers, this sea of identical details that they're making, that is kind of got an efficiency of scale in their financial markets, which are not reflecting life. That whole thing is just so overpowered. It's just a holding action against the tsunami that's coming. Tsunamis that are coming, that are here. The earth is rising up. One of the great earth culture predictions, prophecies, was told to me at Occupy Wall Street 11 years ago by no, not 11 years ago, 7 years ago by Eagle Woman from North Dakota. She told me that the earth will rise up and that we might have a chance to join in that revolution. But that rising up has now begun. Earth Hallelujah. And we're gonna turn now to Christine Nobiss and ask her to talk to us from her.
Amen.
Thank you for the introduction. So we're a small group, but small groups can also be mighty, right? So we should make some noise at the World Food Prize. We're here, everybody. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Good. I am handing out some posters, I think, that articulate why we're here. This was created by Jackie Fawn on behalf of my request, actually, precisely for Iowa's situation. Iowa is Big Ag's sacrifice zone. Iowa is the #1 contributor to the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico right now. We have 750 impaired waterways that do not meet the Clean Water Act standard. And about 90% of the land here is dedicated to agriculture. This is the most biologically transformed state in the country, possibly all of Turtle Island. This place used to look a lot different when the people of this land that lived here before the settler descendants lived here. This used to be a transition from woodland to oak savanna, wetland, and tallgrass prairie. And it's one of the most fertile places in the continent because it's the only state or the only geographical region that lies between the two biggest rivers in this country, the Missouri and the Mississippi River. The land here is beautiful, and the agriculture that was being carried out before the settler descendants, before the colonial militias, before the settler vigilantes came and kicked the people out and killed them, the kind of agriculture that was happening here was the kind of agriculture that people are now trying to transition to. It's such a joke, don't you think? We were doing things right in the first place. We planted things the right way. We planted corn here, but it was not genetically modified corn that causes cancer and all sorts of issues of sterility with other plants. We planted it in conjunction with beans and squash, called the Three Sisters. And we planted things in a much different way. There wasn't monocropping going on, and there wasn't soil degradation. I am not from Iowa. I'm actually from Canada. We have our own issues there too. But one of the things I've noticed in Iowa is the increase in humidity here. Do you guys ever think about the humidity issues we have in Iowa? Do you know that that's actually artificially increased by 10% from something called corn sweat? So the humidity in the state is actually artificially increased due to the massive amount of corn that's been planted. The soil in this state is depleting at a rate that we can't keep up with. And all that soil is being depleted because we're planting shallow root crops that can't keep the soil in place. We're clear cutting everything and then putting in plants that don't prosper here and that we have to artificially cultivate. Imagine tall grass prairie and root systems that are about 8 feet deep, and buffalo that used to roam on this prairie and eat the tops off that grass so that the grass would grow taller and stronger each year, and those roots would go deeper and deeper each year. Do you know how much carbon tall grass prairie can sequester? It's a ridiculous amount. If we were to plant 20 million acres of tall grass prairie back onto this continent and allow the buffaloes to maintain it and then let indigenous people manage those buffalo, we would be in good shape. That would sequester a ridiculous amount of carbon. There are simple solutions to what we're doing, except that the powers that be that are guided by corrupt colonial agenda economics don't want to make that transition. And it's not like it's hard to make that transition. It's really not. It's more like they're scared to make the transition, and possibly it's just inertia. So it's up to people like us to continue to do this kind of work, even though we're a small group. You know, between all of us standing here together, you know, we can continue to rally people to do more. So, you know, when you leave here tonight, don't forget to not just post something on Facebook like, oh, I was here, but to write something about it and to give somebody a call or to plan something in your own area. This takes more than just a rally. This takes actual planning. It takes change of leadership at the governmental level. It takes changing the actual economy. Right now, I'm working on an initiative with some fantastic people to bring in an indigenous-led regenerative economy. I think that my ancestors had the answers. I truly believe that. And I think it's time to pay attention, close attention to what they had to say before the colonizers moved in. Big ag is no different than any other industry out there. It's no different. It's the exact same thing. It's for profit, and it's for greed, and it's for the 1%.
Oh, all right, there it is. Did you hear that? I heard it.
The other thing I wanted to mention, Big Ag is 1%. The other thing I wanted to mention, 1%. From an indigenous perspective, the CAFO issue in this state really bothers me. Apparently there are 23 million hogs confined here, but that number is actually greater, I've recently found out, because they're not counting the piglets, so it could be closer to 40 million hogs that are confined in this state, living horrible existences. And I want to tell you a little story about hogs in North America. They're not from here originally. They were introduced by the Spanish conquistadors, and these hogs brought with them a lot of terrible disease and sickness, and killed, like full-on caused, you know, death and mayhem in communities before people even showed up. Not only that, but they destroyed our crops before people even showed up in some places. So hogs are one of the colonizers on this continent. And I just want people to know that. I think it's important that we start telling the history of what agriculture was before the settler vigilantes came in, and what hogs have done to destroy the land here, and now what we're doing to hogs themselves. It's a horrible situation. So we have to do something about that as well. I have written a zine. It's titled Iowa Big Ag Sacrifice Zone and Indigenous Perspective. It's a Seeding Sovereignty project. That's the organization I work for. And I'd love for you all to take a read and try to get an understanding of why it's important for Indigenous people to stand up in Iowa and speak about big ag and CAFOs and pipelines and environmental issues in general. Because Iowa was cleared out because people wanted the land here. They wanted this beautiful soil so that they could, farm. And look what happened. And so even though Native people have been cleared out, it's time for us to come back and make a statement. Indian country is not just where reservations are. Indian country is all of Turtle Island. Everywhere we stand is stolen land. So that's why I'm not afraid to speak anywhere I am on Turtle Island and say that we need to do something.
We're grateful. Thank you. We're grateful.
I want to say thank you to the 28 nations that still have ancestral ties to Iowa. Right now, the Meskwaki are situated here. They were the one nation that managed to make it through the genocide. The Omaha have a little bit of their reservation that juts in here. But I mean, there's like the Winnebago, the Dakota, the Santee, there's the Iowa, the Kickapoo. I mean, there are so many nations that thrived throughout Iowa at different times. Some that maintained long-term spots here, some that came and went. But I just want to say it's really important to pay recognition to that. Anyways, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And keep doing this good work.
Thank you so much for your message, Christine. Wonderful. Can you stay with us, and we're gonna let's gather around the stage and just have a song for the earth.
Thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Much thanks to the speaker.